Let me tell you something about the way Stephen A. Smith carries himself when he knows something that nobody else in the room knows yet. Most people, when they are sitting on genuine information, become slightly more animated than usual. Their energy rises, their pace quickens, they lean toward the person they are talking to. Stephen A. does the opposite. He gets quieter, slower, more deliberate. There is a stillness to him in those moments that is almost unnerving, because you can tell something is being held back, and the holding back is itself a performance, and the performance is communicating one thing very clearly. I know something you don't know, and I'm about to tell you, and you are not going to be ready for it. That is exactly how he looked on the morning that changed sports television, at least for the people who were watching, and I was watching. The claim was about the Golden State Warriors and Domantas Sabonis, not whispers, not speculation attributed to sources close to the situation who requested anonymity. A direct statement. The Warriors were in advanced discussions about acquiring Sabonis from Sacramento. The package was being constructed. The Kings were willing. The fit was real. Stephen A. laid it out in full. The argument for why Sabonis was the center Golden State had been searching for since the championship years. Why the combination of Sabonis and Steph Curry represented the kind of late window move that could restore Golden State to genuine title contention. Why the Kings' rebuild situation made now the optimal moment for this deal to get done. He said it all with the measured intensity of someone who had been sitting on this information for days and had finally been given permission, or had given himself permission, to put it on the table. Hey, what's up everyone? Real quick before we get into everything, that like button is literally what determines if this reaches hundreds or thousands of fans. Takes 1 second but makes a huge impact on the channel's growth. Just smash that like button right now. It's the easiest thing you can do, but honestly the biggest way to support this content. Every single like pushes this further, so hit it now. Shannon Sharpe listened to the entire presentation with the patience of a man who has heard a lot of presentations and has developed very good instincts for the ones that hold up under pressure. And this one, to Shannon, did not hold up under pressure. He came back at it from multiple angles. He talked about Golden State's asset situation, the picks they had already committed, the salary constraints of a team that had been operating near the cap for years, the complexity of packaging anything meaningful enough to interest Sacramento without gutting the depth that made them competitive. He talked about the Kings' public commitment to their rebuild around young talent and whether Sabonis was really available at the price Golden State could actually pay. He said directly that Stephen A. was taking a real rumor, maybe something that had actually been discussed at some level, and inflating it into a done deal before any deal was actually done. He said it was a pattern. He cited the pattern, and then he did what Shannon does when he wants to make a point land. He smiled and said, simply, prove it. Now, I want you to understand something about that moment. Shannon has said prove it to Stephen A. before, many times, on many topics. And the usual result is more argument, more conviction, more volume, more assertion. What Shannon was not expecting was for Stephen A. to pull out his phone. What Shannon was not expecting was for Stephen A. to find a contact and dial before the silence had even fully settled. What Shannon was not expecting was for Stephen A. to place the phone face up on the desk between them with the speaker active and the line already ringing. What Shannon was not expecting was for someone to pick up. But someone picked up, and what happened in the 30 seconds that followed is something that I have gone over in my head hundreds of times since it aired, and every time I go over it, I find something new to be astonished by. The voice on the other end of that call was relaxed in the way that people are relaxed when they are in a private conversation with someone they trust. No caution in it, no hedging, no protective distance. Just a person talking to another person about something they both understood to be real. He confirmed it. Confirmed the Warriors were serious about Sabonis. Confirmed the conversations between the two front offices had moved past the exploratory stage into something substantive. He talked about the Kings being genuinely open to moving their franchise center, that the injury history from the previous season had created internal questions about the long-term timeline, and that Sacramento's front office had made a quiet decision to at least hear what the market would offer. He talked about the package Golden State had put together, centered, he said, on a former lottery pick who still had upside that a rebuilding team could develop, combined with complementary pieces that addressed Sacramento's roster needs and a collection of picks that gave the Kings future flexibility. He said the Warriors had reviewed the ask and believed they could meet it. And then he said something that made Shannon go completely still. He said that within the people who actually knew about these conversations, it was not a question of whether the deal was going to happen. It was a question of when, not if, when. And then he heard the studio. There is a specific acoustic quality to a live television environment. The hum of equipment, the slight reverb of a room designed for broadcast, the background presence of multiple microphones and multiple people in a space built around the transmission of sound. It is subtle, but it is distinctive, and a person who has spent time in media environments recognizes it immediately. He went quiet, and then very carefully he said, "Stephen A., is this a live show right now?" And Stephen A., without hesitation, said yes, and the line went dead. What happened in the studio in the next 60 seconds was the most genuinely unscripted television I have watched in years. Molly reacted with the professionalism that defines her. She said clearly and firmly that this was not something the show should have done, that sources depend on trust, that the precedent set by this moment was one she was uncomfortable with regardless of what had been confirmed. She was right. Shannon sat motionless for a moment that stretched on longer than television usually permits silence to stretch, and then he said slowly that he had not thought Stephen A. was going to actually go through with it. He said he did not think Stephen A. had anyone to call, and Stephen A., who had apparently planned for exactly this moment and arrived at it fully prepared, leaned back in his chair and said, quietly, almost to himself, with the satisfaction of a man whose entire professional life had just been validated in 30 seconds of unintended confirmation. "That's what I thought. Now let me spend real time on the substance of what was confirmed, because the spectacle of how it was delivered risks obscuring how important the information actually is." Golden State's interest in Sabonis is not a casual rumor. It is a calculated, strategic response to a real and urgent problem. The Warriors are a team built around one of the greatest shooters in the history of basketball, a player who creates more space and more confusion for opposing defenses than almost anyone who has ever played the game. Steph Curry at 37 is still extraordinary. Still capable of performances that make you question whether age applies to him the way it applies to everyone else. Still able to carry a team on a given night. Still the single most difficult player in the league to guard off the ball. But the window for building a championship team around him is definitively finite. Not theoretically finite, not eventually finite, actively closing. The Warriors front office understands this. Everything they have done in the last 2 years reflects this understanding, and the question they keep arriving at, the question that every attempted solution keeps bringing them back to, is this: who is the center? The Warriors' offensive system, in its ideal form, is a symphony of movement. It requires every player to be processing information at full speed, making reads before the ball arrives, creating advantages through the interplay of screens and cuts and reads that compound on each other until the defense simply cannot cover everything. In the championship years, Draymond Green was the conductor of this system, the player whose passing, whose vision, whose ability to make the correct decision at every moment held the whole thing together. Draymond is still one of the smartest players in basketball, but the years have changed his role, and the offense has needed something that Green used to provide and can no longer provide at the same level. A big man who passes like a guard. Domantas Sabonis passes like a guard. He passes like a very, very good guard. His assist numbers, over 7 per game in his best seasons, are not big man numbers inflated by the soft credit that centers sometimes get for simple passes out of double teams. They are genuine creation numbers built on reads that most bigs never make, on passes that require anticipating where a cutter is going before the cutter has committed to going there, on a spatial intelligence that is genuinely rare at his position. His handoff game is precisely the weapon the Warriors' motion offense is designed to leverage. The moment when Sabonis receives a pass, turns into a screen for Curry coming off a second action, and either pops for a mid-range shot or hits Curry clean on the catch is the moment that opposing defensive coordinators lose sleep over, because there is no single answer to it. You cannot hedge too far on Curry because Sabonis punishes you with the pull-up or the lob. You cannot stay home on Sabonis because Curry is gone. The action creates a genuine dilemma, and genuine dilemmas are what championship offenses are built around. The source confirmed that the package Golden State was offering centered on a former lottery pick. This is significant because it tells you the level at which the Warriors are operating in this negotiation. They are not offering scraps. A former lottery pick with remaining upside is exactly the kind of asset a rebuilding Sacramento team needs. It gives them a player who has already demonstrated he belongs in the league and whose ceiling is high enough that the rebuild can be structured around him. Pair that with complementary pieces and multiple picks, and you have the foundation of a real rebuild rather than a collection of filler and expiring deals. And from Sabonis' perspective, everything about Golden State makes basketball sense. He is 29 years old, he has been one of the most productive centers in basketball for 5 years, he has made multiple All-Star teams, he has been mentioned in all NBA conversations, he has averaged double-digit points and rebounds with playmaking numbers that no center in the league can match. He has done all of this in Sacramento, where the playoffs have been a persistent theoretical rather than an actual reality. Every year he has produced, the Kings have finished either just outside or just inside the play-in, and the championship conversation has never once applied to his team. For a player of his caliber, that absence is not just frustrating, it is a threat to his legacy. Great players are remembered by what they won. Sabonis' resume, viewed through the lens of a decade from now, looks different if he finishes his career in Sacramento than if he finishes it on a team that actually competed. Golden State gives him everything he does not have in Sacramento, a system that is specifically designed to maximize what he does best. A partner in Curry whose gravity creates more open space than any other player in the league. A supporting cast that knows how to play winning basketball at the highest level. And an organization that has demonstrated repeatedly that it knows how to win. For Sabonis, this is not just a trade, it is a chance to redefine what his career means. The voice on the other end of that phone call said not if, but when. He said it without theater, without spin, without the protective hedging of someone who is thinking about how their words will be reported. He said it because he believed it and because he had no reason in that moment to say anything other than what he believed. The call ended when he realized where he was, but the words did not end. They stayed in the studio, they stayed in the broadcast, they stayed in every clip and conversation and argument that followed in the hours and days after it aired. Shannon could not dispute what he had heard. Molly could not pretend it had not been said. And Stephen A. Smith, sitting in the quiet satisfaction of a man who had just forced the truth into the open by the sheer audacity of picking up his phone and pressing dial, did not need to say anything more than what he said. That's what I thought, 4 words. And the rest of the story told itself.